I surprised my parents with this ice fishing shack made out of a shipping container. Merry Christmas! Yeah. We got duped at the auction. We bought this 12-foot shipping container that has a window and a door in it, and we thought it was a regular constructed shipping container. So what are we gonna do with it? It's super flimsy and super light, and we've always wanted to build an ice shack. Well, why not try it on this thing? We actually have 2 more of them, and so if this works out, we could do some other cool, unique designs. So in this video, we're gonna let you follow along as we fix this thing up. Basically polishing a turd or putting lipstick on a pig, but we are gonna make something cool out of this, and then we're gonna try it out. Stay tuned, hope you learned something. So we wanna keep this relatively low budget, and we wanna keep it pretty simple so that a DIYer could take on a similar project. The paint on this thing was garbage. It was peeling off everywhere. I could just scrape it off with my finger. So we wire wheeled the entire container and then zinc primed all the areas that are exposed steel. Everywhere that we didn't remove the paint is probably still going to flake. And so this is probably gonna be an issue where we're trying to adhere a nice layer of paint, a good quality type of paint, to a weak substrate. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but whatever. We're keeping her low budget. We did as best we could. If the wire wheel didn't scrape it off, obviously it's adhered there a little bit. These doors here are absolutely junk. They're very thin walled steel, and it's going to be pretty much impossible to install any sort of door flashing kit on these. So what we're gonna do is actually just build a partition wall further back, and we're gonna utilize this area as a place to potentially hang your auger or different types of tools, and something that we could close up and kind of Fisher Price lock up while we're gone. It's probably the best idea we've come up with here, and if this was a different style of container that had the solid, thick structural members around the doors, we could utilize our regular door flashing kit. And then inside of this unit here, feels like 1/4-inch plywood in here, and so we're gonna finish screwing it down, and we definitely have to build up off of this to get ourselves a more solid base. So we're thinking we're gonna take 1.5 inch rigid foam, because that's about all we can do to get a normal height door in here, and then we'll build a subfloor on top of that, figure out how we're gonna finish that later. All we really know is we need a steel plate underneath the stove that's gonna be inside of this thing. And yeah, we're gonna let the boys go to work. I think the next step, rigid foam, subfloor, and then framing. We're gonna insulate this entire thing with 2-pound closed cell spray foam. And then the decision is, do we just leave the spray foam exposed, or do we finish the interior? And I think probably gonna wanna finish the inside of this. The way that this is going to evolve is up in the air right now, so we just gotta get started, get the floor tackled. Before framing, the roof was sagging downwards, and that was surely gonna hold water. So we grabbed some scrap steel and we welded that in and got onto steel stud framing. We utilized 1 5/8 inch steel studs on the walls and 2.5 across the ceiling. Once the framing was done, things started to come together pretty quickly. And up to that point, this still felt like a really weird container project. But once we painted the outside of the container dark gray, it finally looked like something real. After that, we had a prototype horizontal window laying around, which we installed as a lookout window, and that completely changed the vibe inside. It brought in a lot more natural light and made the space feel way more open. Then we spray foamed the entire container. That is a big moment in all container mods, and once that was done, it actually felt ready for the winter. And so here is how this wall thimble finished up with that mineral oil insulation and then the spray foam that came around it with our steel stud framing. And now that that's complete, we can plywood line it, and we've already started that here. So the guys, as they were waiting for this container to come back, started pre-painting some of the boards, and then we're just getting to install. So we'll give this a final coat after it's all said and done. Let's get out of their way and let them finish it up. When you're ice fishing, you want it nice and dark inside, and so we painted the entire interior black. Brady absolutely killed it with the wooden benches, the upper shelves, and the concrete form chamfer that we utilized to trim all the inside corners. And at that point, it finally felt like a place you could actually sit in and not just a build in progress. Then came installing the stove. Once that was in and the pipe was run, it stopped feeling like a container and started feeling like an ice fishing shack. And after the interior was all done, we jumped back outside to wrap things up. To be able to pull this thing onto the ice, we built skis for it. Because this thing is going to be an off-grid shack, we added 2 solar panels on the roof using our solar panel mounting kits. When starting this project, we didn't really know how we were going to make a shipping container into an ice shack, so we figured it out one step at a time. This here turned out great, and we can still add more to it, but we utilized our strut framing method for 2 vertical struts on the end wall of this ice shack, and then we're able to put our prototype pipe racks on here. So these typically are going to be meant for storing pipe, like long 15-20 foot long pieces of pipe, but we put the pipe in between here and we're utilizing it for firewood storage, and we'll need firewood to burn in our stove. And so here we've got this all finished up. We got the stovepipe coming out of our big air blank vent, and we use some shelving brackets just to pin that in place, and it is solid now. We put the Galva rain cap on there so we don't have water coming in and sitting in the pipe there. Let's jump inside and check it out. This is ready to party in. So we got our Christmas lights all installed, and we also have a 4-foot fixture. This is going to be very handy for us when we're first jumping inside of this thing and unpacking, and then when we're packing up to leave. So in here, especially throughout the day, it'll be nice and dark in here, but we do get a whole bunch of light coming up from the holes, and that allows you to really look down your hole while you're fishing. We can also throw a camera down one of the holes, and that can hook up into our TV. So we mounted, I think it's a 43-inch TV and a sound bar. And these lights and the TV and the sound system, everything right now, although this is inside of our shop at this moment, this is all running off this battery. And that's really cool because this can be fed with our 2 solar panels and charged very rapidly while we're out there and utilizing it. And what was really cool to see is that even with everything cranked in here, consuming as much power as we possibly could, it said we had 16 hours of life in this battery, and we can also take this home with us. So if it's gonna get really cold in here, you don't really want your battery to freeze, even though the solar panels would be pumping juice in there and keeping it nice and warm. But you can definitely just bring this home with you, charge it with shore power at night, and then bring it back. So this here, right when the benches were installed, it was pretty cozy. But I guess if you were sitting here all day long, it is a little bit cozier with these cushions. And we were able to fit, it looks like there's room for about 8 people inside of this thing, 4 to fish. But often you're bringing children with you when you're doing these outdoor activities, and so yeah, there'd be definitely a lot of room here for my full family, including the grandparents, to have a very nice fishing trip for a day. And inside of here we've also just created a lot of really custom racks and stuff, so all the tools that we're gonna need for a day of ice fishing, we got it. And we wanted thermostats as well. We got one on the outside and one on the inside, and that's gonna allow us to really make sure we don't get her too smoking hot in here, or just judge how much wood we should be throwing on the fire. And also just interesting to see how cold it is here in God's country. So our stove here, this actually got returned to us, I think, inside of a shipping container. I believe we actually had someone that was trying to live in one of our rental units, and they built a little partition wall and had this in there. So whether they got evicted by the landowner or what, but this came back to us, and so very low cost, we got it for free. We just had to buy a few fittings to get the stove pipe out the wall through our custom designed thimble. And so this here, we installed checker plate flooring on the floor, just so that if any ashes or embers or something land, at least underneath the stove anyway, it's gonna be reflecting the heat away, but also just not lighting this whole place on fire. And I guess we'll know shortly here. We're gonna try this out later on and see how she works. This window here, this is actually our residential window, and we actually have these 20 by 60 windows where we can install them in 2 directions. We can go horizontal with our framing kit or vertical. And so this is just a little bit, I guess, more architectural for people looking to build some sort of a residence out of a shipping container. What was weird is, as we were building this and as we were installing things, going through certain milestones, for some reason the code hooks really made it feel complete for me. It's yeah, pretty sweet how they've done some nice carpentry with our shelving brackets, and then, you know, trimmed around the windows. We've got really nice overhead storage. We've got nice storage underneath all the benches, and then obviously the storage unit in the back here. These doors here are paper thin, they're junk. And instead of us just framing in front of them and utilizing them as a wall, especially with the door seal in the areas that water could intrude in there, we just decided to build a partition wall. What is it, a foot or 16 inches back or so, 15 inches back. And that allows us now to store all of our supplies. As you can kind of see, this is a bit of a blank canvas right now. We still can do more special customized racking and everything. We are going to put an auger in here and have that wall mounted. But honestly, there's probably some really cool ideas that you guys have that you could leave in the comments down below, and I'm actually really excited to read them. So please help me deck this place out. Adding these ISO corner castings to the underside of this shipping container was a great idea because it gave us ground clearance, and then we were able to build these skis out of this 8-inch flat bar that's 1/2 inch thick. And on that, we welded our deck mount twist locks. So now this thing can actually be removed from these skis if we were worried they were gonna freeze to the ground. Or one idea we had was maybe add some jacks here, like trailer jacks, where we could actually just lift this thing up and put some wood underneath there. So as the sun's beating on it, it doesn't freeze, and then we're able to get it off the lake at the end of the weekend. And how we're gonna do that is use our tow hooks here. So we got either just shackles on the ends of these skis, but we also stole this right out of the snowmobile playbook, and we got ski loops here too. So depending on what kind of rigging we use, we should be able to give this thing a good yoink. And we're gonna do that with our side-by-side here. So we got a diesel side-by-side that's hydrostatic driven. So these things are brutally slow, but they got a lot of torque on them. And we're gonna add a little bit of torque by turboing this thing. If you guys wanna follow that, it's not really shipping container related, but it is a pretty cool project. So let me know down in the comments if that's something that you want us to cover. Here, this is what it looks like all finished up with this horizontal window. That gives us a really nice lookout to check if the COs are coming or check our tip-ups. And then up top here, our solar panel mounting kits. These things are amazing with those black solar panels on there. And that's gonna produce, I think, about 1,000 watts. And so that's definitely gonna run everything inside of this while we're out there. Just gotta make sure those are facing south.
We are gonna weigh the ice shack because you guys all think it's way too heavy. We're gonna prove you wrong.
I strapped to both corners. I was gonna strap to both those corners and then hook it all into the scale.
How much do you think it's gonna weigh?
3,500.
35 and 1.
35!
Here we go. Had some science going on outside. I didn't even know the boys were doing this. Good job, Jeremy! He says his ice castle is heavier than that, so we know it's not too heavy. I guess they did the math and the weight is 3999.2 pounds. So they said 3,900, round it down. Must be the firewood on there. This thing should definitely not go down on the ice. And one person had a very valid comment and totally made sense that there's a lot of PSI on the ground. And so now that we know how much it weighs and then how much 8-inch flat bar we have, we can actually calculate the PSI. And they hypothesized that it's actually gonna be lighter than a human foot. So as you can see here, it is really cold inside of here. And this stove is way oversized, but I'm very thankful for that right now because hopefully we can get this cooking and warmed up in here in a jiffy. Let's try it out. Like all wood stoves, I think they all have little quirks, and usually the homeowner is the best person to run them. And in this instance, we've never ran it before. So after playing with the dampers and stuff, we've got it to calm down a little bit. For a while there, it was getting pretty hairy. I didn't know if we lit the whole ceiling on fire or something was getting hot in this thimble because the roof was just pounding smoke off of it around the solar panels. It gave us some really cool views, but it was also a little bit sketchy there for a couple minutes. But yeah, we got her dialed in now, and I think I would feel safe taking this thing on the ice. Next step here is to hand it over to the parents and see if they're pissed off at me for spending all this money or they're excited that they're getting an ice shack. Come for a walk. Merry Christmas.
Ice shack?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah. Custom built.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Told you that. Told you the vendor was late on delivering your present. That was us.
Wow.
Awesome. Even speakers.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh
Subfloor,
my God.
TV, fishing rods, grandkids.
When the sky is blue,
Holy crap, you put
and the grass is green.
Well, it was free though. The price was right, it was free.
Yeah.
Return.
That's awesome. Oh my God, this is the best gift ever.
So there you have it. The parents loved what we did here. That's just the first part of this journey though. The next step is we got to actually take this thing ice fishing, and there's a lot of things that we're going to learn. We got to figure out, can we pull this? Can we pull it onto the ice through snow? Is it going to freeze to the lake when we get it there? And can we get it off the lake afterwards? So if you enjoyed following us as we built this thing and tried it out here at our yard, and you want to see that, please make sure that you subscribe to our channel and ring the bell for notifications. And as always, hope you learned something.